there's another model. And for lack of a better term, let's call it the futuristic model. The futuristic model says this: next generation ministry is all about helping the next generation to have a vision for how they can write the future. It's all about giving the next generation a heart whose imagination is captured for how they can partner with Jesus to change history in the world they're going to inhabit and in the world they are going to control. See, I am convinced that if we really want to embrace the Spirit of Jesus, then when it comes to the next generation ministries, we have got to adopt a futuristic viewpoint. You see, there is value in all of these. It's kind of nice to not be distracted by kids running around when we're having our service in here. And who amongst us would argue the point that it's good for children to learn the Bible? And of course, we need support and help in understanding how to live a healthy Christian lifestyle. But I would suggest to you that one thing contemporary church history would teach us is that if we simply try to indoctrinate and we simply try to teach a lifestyle to children, it doesn't seem to work when they become young adults. And the reason it doesn't work is because doctrine only becomes genuinely important and a lifestyle only begins to really make sense when they are both understood to support a reason, a mission, a vision you're trying to fulfill in the world. It is really only when our hearts have been captured by a vision for what we could do in the world in partnership with Jesus that suddenly knowing doctrine becomes relevant and living a certain lifestyle becomes important because they help support the dream and its accomplishment. You know, Christians should not fear the future. And Christians should not bemoan the future. And Christians should not neglect the future. As followers of Jesus, we ought to shape the future. We ought to shape the future. Do you realize that is one of the inherent powers that God gave to human beings? To take action, to do things that change the texture of the world in the generations to come. I take us back all the way to the Garden of Eden, when God created the first two human beings, Adam and Eve. And God said to them, here's what I want. I want you to be fruitful, and I want you to multiply, and I want you to subdue the earth, and I want you to till the soil, and I want you to raise crops, and I want you to build civilizations. That's what he was saying. He was in essence saying, I want you to do things right here and right now that will change the way things look and feel and are in the years to come. There are people that are absolutely intent to change the way the future will be written. And Christians need to be a part of that group of people. And the best way to change the future is to influence the hearts of the people who will write the future. If we want to genuinely leave a legacy, if we want our lives and influence to carry on when we're gone, then it will happen because we have taken the time to influence the very people who will live and act and shape the world after we're already gone. This is a powerful and repeated scriptural principle. There are many people, even who aren't very well versed in Christian history, who have heard of this guy named Moses. Moses was an incredibly powerful leader and follower of God. And you remember Moses. He was the guy marched up to Pharaoh, the number one political guy of the nation of Egypt, which was the most powerful nation on the face of the earth at the time. And he said, you've got a bunch of descendants of Abraham. They are Hebrews. You've got them as slaves. There are millions of them. And I'm telling you now, you've got to let them go. You've got to liberate them. And then there was the whole showdown deal. Remember the whole 10-plague deal? And so finally, Pharaoh let them go. And then there was the crossing of the Red Sea and the annihilation of the pursuing armies. And then there was the wandering in the wilderness. There was the manna and the water from the rocks. There was going up to the top of the Mount Sinai and getting laws and commands from God for how the nation should be organized so it could be a nation of righteousness and peace and justice and humanity. But you know what the problem was? Moses died before they ever got into the promised land. He did the delivering, he did the leading, he did the law giving, he did the organizing. And then they got right to the brink of the promised land, and Moses up and died on the people. What a rude thing to do. And now it's like, whoa, the biggest challenge of all. Go in and conquest and take the land. Moses dead. Now how would the future be written now that Moses was gone? And that future was written very well because that Moses had taken the time to invest himself in someone else. The entire time he had been mentoring a man whose name was Joshua. Joshua was like Moses' assistant. When Moses would do things, Joshua was there. When Moses needed things done, Moses would have Joshua do it. And Joshua learned from Moses, was mentored by Moses, was envisioned by Moses, so that when Moses was gone, there was a man who had a vision for what could be, who could just carry on and write a righteous future. You know what's fascinating? It's not as though somehow Joshua learned merely how to repeat what Moses did. Because Joshua didn't stand up and say, okay, I learned from Moses how to wander in the desert, so let's go wander, everybody. I can do that really well. No. What he got from Moses was he got a vision for what God could do if they were just surrendered and obedient. And he led the people into new challenges that faced them in their day. Things that Moses had not faced, but things that Joshua was able to face because he got a vision from Moses on what his life could be like if it was yielded to God in his day, in his time, and in his situation. The most powerful way to influence the way the future will be written is by influencing those who will actually write the future. There's no more important thing we can do than giving a vision to the next generation of what they could do if they would partner with Jesus and do his work in the world. Nothing. And so if we're going to adopt and we're going to embrace this futuristic way of looking at next generation ministries, then I'm calling upon us to take two basic action steps. I'm calling upon us to do some integration and some participation. By integration, I'm saying that we are going to take what goes on across the hall and down the hall with our children and with our teenagers and bring it more regularly into what we're doing in here in this room. Whether it be things that we watch or the people that we bring in, but to more fully integrate our next generation ministries with what we do in here on Sunday mornings.